Welcome to this Rochester Sentinel webcast. Our guest today is Governor Mitch Daniels of Indiana. I'm Sentinel Editor Bill Wilson. Could you give us a quick overview of your education proposals?
Sure. They're in three categories. First is teacher quality. We want to try to have a great teacher in every classroom every year of a child's schooling. All the experts, all the data tells us that this is far and away the most important factor. It dwarfs everything else in terms of predicting whether a child will come out academically strong or not. So we seek to identify through local processes the best teachers and reward them more, and also to identify any teachers who aren't cutting it and either help them to quickly improve or get somebody in that classroom who can help the child more. So that's one. And secondly, we want more flexibility. We're going to a new era of accountability for our schools and our districts, and just as we believe there should be high expectations for each child, we think there should be high expectations for each school. Starting this year, schools will get an A through F grade that everybody can understand, and if we're going to hold people accountable, though, we have to free up the principals, free up the superintendents from state laws and regs and contract provisions that get in the way of their doing the best job they know how. And then thirdly, we want more options for parents, and so that means more charter schools, which are public schools without the strings. And for the low-income people and moderate-income people of the state, we believe as a matter of justice that if they think a non-government school is best for their child, that they should have the same ability to get them there as a wealthier person.
What are your odds of getting all that through, Governor?
I think the odds of getting most of it are pretty good. I think that, first of all, there's a national movement. It is bipartisan. I mean, most of the things I just described to you are President Obama is for, and people in between his position and mine on other issues. And so I think that the time is right, and our early conversations from the General Assembly are promising.
What are your thoughts on proposed legislation that would make all Hoosier school years begin after Labor Day? Mm-hmm. Is this an appropriate approach?
I guess probably not. I confess I've had conflicting views on this. If I were on a school board, I think I'd vote for a later start date. And by the way, I believe our kids ought to be in school more days than they are, and I support the districts, and we have several now, that are using a calendar that is more spread through the school year, doesn't have a huge long summer vacation. But I don't know why of all the months of the year, why we want kids in a classroom in the hottest month of August. Now, having said that, I'm a big believer in local control. Our education program that we just discussed is heavily built on more local decision making and control, and so I think this decision ought to be left to each school district to make for itself.
About 4 years ago, you were here in town, and you told some Rochester middle school 8th graders that they were very fortunate to be going into a new tech format in high school. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the new tech format today?
I think it's proving out in practice. I try to stay in touch with Rochester and our other pioneer schools. My impression is that they're glad that they've gone this route. And I will say this, new tech is spreading very fast. So I think that the word of mouth in public education in Indiana is this is a very good new development. Yeah, I hope I'm right about that, and that this experience here has been a good one.
What would you say to those who think Rochester High School should not be teaching Mandarin Chinese as it is?
Oh, I would ask them to rethink their position. First of all, a wider range of options, especially foreign languages, is a great thing. I wish more of our Indiana schools were teaching more languages. Our kids are going to grow up in a very small world, as they say. Second, I can't think of a more important language right now for some American kids to master than Mandarin. You know, this is going to be the major nation they are going to be dealing with, I hope, peacefully and successfully and prosperously. But you know, a young person coming up today, if they want a great job in the future, knowing how to speak Mandarin could be a great way to get one.
How's the Indiana Teacher Pension Fund?
Fine.
Fiscally sound?
Yes. We have two pension funds in Indiana. The Public Employees Fund, which is fully funded, as they say. Also, you should know that at my direction, our pension funds are using the most conservative estimates of future growth in America. We've got the lowest assumption. So in that sense, they're more a little safer than others. And we are making, again, as we've made every single year, the necessary payments into the Teachers Fund to allow it to meet every obligation. And Indiana should always do that, and I know will.
Tell us a little bit about how you're going to measure teacher performance, or how it should be measured.
Yeah, good to put that question in two ways, because I'm not going to measure it. Superintendent Bennett not going to measure it. It's going to be measured in ways devised locally. We'll all maybe over the course of time find out what ways work best. But two answers. One, for the lower grades in particular, we'll be measuring growth. The teacher cannot control who comes in the classroom. Many get a class with kids who are very far behind, don't come from homes where education is valued. And so what we seek to measure, and what Indiana has the tools to measure now, is during the year, did the child grow at least a year, hopefully more? And we ought to really be rewarding those teachers who take kids who are behind and catch them up. The second thing is, particularly for the higher grades, where it's going to be more complex to decide who's a great teacher, who's a good teacher, who's just an average teacher, and so forth. The idea is to have each district devise its own evaluation plan. And the state board will look at them to make sure it's not a sham. You know, today, 99% of all the teachers get an A. And you know that can't be right. So we need a system which rewards those who are truly excellent but differentiates. And the idea is, let's have every district come up with its own approach. And over the course of time, they can learn from each other, and we'll all learn what's the very best way.